How do you hit your irons more consistently? This is a question I get asked a ton, and we're gonna go over how you can do that today. So how do you hit your irons more consistently? This is a question that almost everyone asks because this is our main goal, right? When I ask a ton of people what their goals are, just overall in the golf game, a lot of them just tell me the same thing. They want a good swing that looks good, but they also want to hit the ball consistently. It doesn't have to be like Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler. They just want to be able to hit the ball in a similar place almost every single time, right? They don't want to be dealing with the shanks, the pulls, the hooks on almost every shot. They just want to be able to hit their irons, especially more consistently. Now, today we're going to talk about how we can do that. Okay, there are 3 parts that we're going to talk about today. Number 1 is going to be your ball position. Number 2 is going to be your distance away from the ball. And number 3 is going to be how you strike the ball. So ball first and ground after with your irons. Okay, so let's get into ball position first. Right here I have a 50-degree wedge, okay? Now, wedges are technically not considered irons, but I'm gonna go over them today because I do think they're extremely important. Now, first, let's talk about our ball position, right? The way I like to grab ball position is first take my feet and put them in the center just like this, right? My feet are together and the center of my feet is where the ball is, okay? Now what I like to do is for wedges especially, I want to be playing them closer to my back foot so I can get a little bit deeper and take more of a divot out to promote a good strike with a good compression, right? Wedges, we're going to take a bit of a deeper, larger divot for a little bit more of that compression and feel. So what I'm going to want to do here is now take a bigger step forward and then a smaller step backward, okay? Now, if you look at where my setup is, I took a big step forward and a smaller step backward. This ball is now in the back of my stance compared to middle. Now, this step that we take, we want to be around shoulder width apart. You want to be comfortable. You just want to make sure you're not too wide and you're not too narrow for these longer wedge shots, right? For a nice little chipper pitch, having a narrow stance is good, will aid in that rotation around your body, right? You'll see this a lot with the pros. They're able to rotate around for those pitches. But for those longer shots, it's hard to keep the balance, right? When you have a narrow stance. So again, we're going to take our stance, bigger step forward, smaller step backward, be comfortable here. And now we have our ball position for our wedge, okay? Now if I were to go to one of my short irons here, I have a 9 iron here we can look at. This is one of the shorter irons we can look at. Now, with a shorter iron, the distance between our feet is going to be slightly larger than a wedge, right? Because it's just after a pitching wedge. So now we're going to want to take a good step forward, not as much as the wedge, and then a good step backward, right? We're going to want to be just behind the middle, okay? We're going to want a little bit of a wider stance. We're going to want to be a little bit further away from the ball, which we'll get to after. Now again, we're going to want our chest bone and our head on top of the ball, just like the wedge, and then we can take it back and through. So if I show you what a 9 iron would look like, again, we're a little bit further back in our stance to promote that negative angle of attack. And I'll just hit a ball for you right here. Okay, little draw. Now I'm grabbing a 6 iron here, one of our longer irons we would use. Now again, one thing I want you guys to really focus on is be comfortable, right? When you're hitting these types of shots, be comfortable with your stance. Now if your stance looks wonky or it looks off, you have to make sure that you're still doing the right thing, right? We don't want our stance to look too off or too wide or too narrow, but if it's comfortable for you to do a little bit of a wider stance like this, that's okay. If you're so wide like this, like a driver, you're not going to be able to really get that rotation in your body, and you're not going to be able to hit those high launching, good, powerful shots. So with my 6 iron now, again, I take the same setup here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to step a smaller step forward and then a larger step backward, right? Now we're even wider than our 9-iron, and now we're a little bit closer to our front foot, right? We're in front of center here. This is 1 in front of a 7-iron, and now we're able to get a little bit more distance with a club like this because the shaft is going to be longer, right? We're going to be dealing with less loft, so the ball will come out not as high, but it will go further. Okay, now let's talk about distance away from the ball. I'm going to use a 6-iron here to show you guys. So overall, distance away from the ball is something that's extremely important just after ball position. Now, the reason I say that is because if we're standing too close to the ball, right, my hands are almost going in this direction towards my body, right, just like this here, what will happen is we won't be hitting the right part of the club, right? We'll be hitting either on the inside or even shanking the ball sometimes, right? Could be a heel strike, could be a shank, depending on how you are swinging it. Now again, on the contrary, if my arms are going in this direction, too far away from the ball, I'm almost set up like a driver, we're not going to hit the right part of the ball either. It could be a thin strike, a top, a toe strike, whatever it might be, it won't be in the center of the club face. Something I want you to follow is, now I'm going to take my stance here. I'm nice and comfortable. What I want you to feel is your arms are hanging down, vertically down, right? I'm not reaching out forward, I'm not reaching down. My arms are just hanging down naturally in the position they are. Now my hands aren't also straight like this, right? If my hands are straight, my hands are going to be too far down. There's a natural bend in our arms here, and I want you to let them hang naturally, right? Then we can take it back naturally and then come through with our entire body here, right? This distance away from the ball is extremely important, so make sure you're focusing on just letting your arms hang. This is only for your irons especially. This does not apply to your driver. For your driver, it's a different motion, and in a video coming out recently in the next couple days, we'll be talking about the difference between your iron and your driver swing in general. We'll be talking about your setup, your ball position, overall the mechanics of your swing, but right now we're just getting into your irons. So again, focus on that, just letting your arms hang. They're straight down, right? My body is in a good position here. Shoulders are equal, right? We're not lifting up like this, right? Our weight is equal on both feet. And now I'm in a good setup here, right? Our ball position is good in the further forward of our stance. And now our hands are in a good position here to now come back to address, compress, and then come through to our finish. Now, something else I want to go over as well, which is fundamental for hitting your irons consistently as well as pure, would be the concept of ball first, ground after, right? So if I hit the ground first, right, if you look at all the pros, I guarantee you every single pro with every iron they use will always hit the ball first and the ground after. That's something called a good strike, right? If you're hitting the ball and not enough ground after, that could lead to a thin shot. Now that doesn't mean it's gonna be thin, it's just higher likelihood chance that it will be thin. Now if you're chunking the ball, that means you're hitting the ground first and then the ball after. Something I find is when you're playing off the mats, especially in the winter time, as we live in a cold country, I'm in Toronto, what will happen is you can hit behind the ball, but the club will actually slide on the mat and you'll feel like, oh, I hit the ball really well, when in fact you're actually hitting a couple inches behind the ball. So then you come to the grass and you're like, wow, I wonder why now I'm chunking it. It's because the mat ended up helping you out. So something I want you to focus on that will help with this ball first, ground after contact will be, again, get our ball position, get our grip down here, vertical. Now, when you're taking it back, you don't want your body shifting backward, as that will lead to you scooping the ball up, just like so, right? And when you scoop up, what will happen is you will thin the ball. What I want you to do instead is focus on your weight moving forward, right? If you see here now in my backswing, I'm not doing this. What I'm doing is I'm actually taking it back, shifting forward. My head and my chest are now in front of the ball, if not on top. Now I can turn, and my head and my chest are in front. which will promote that downward strike and that ground after. So if I were to show you what that looks like in full motion, it should look something like this. Just like that, where the ball was right here, and we take this divot right after, and it ends up feeling and looking extremely good. So to go over everything again, right, we want to make sure our ball position is good. I have a 6-iron here. Start in the center, right? We're going to go over ball position, distance from the ball, and then ball first to ground after to be as consistent as possible. So I'm going to take my setup here, step forward a little bit, and then step backward quite a bit. This gives me, my setup is going to be slightly forward of center and a little bit wider than my 7-iron here. Now I'm able to get a good setup on the ball with a little bit of that forward shaft lean. Now number 2, we don't want our hands to be too far forward or too far in, right? If they're too far back here, we don't have enough space here, right? There's not enough space for our hands to come through. What we'll do is we'll get stuck here, right? Now, on the contrary, if our hands are too far forward, there'll be too much space here, right? There's too much space to cover, and it could lead to a heel strike or a shank. What we're gonna wanna do is have a good amount of space by letting our arms hang vertically, and like this, right? Our hands are just hanging, and we have a good amount of space here. We can check with our hand. It's not too little, and it's not too much space. We have a good amount of space to be able to come down, create space here, and then turn through and hit the ball well. Lastly, ball first, ground after, something we call our low point, which is the lowest point of our swing in the arc, right? That is where we take a divot, okay? We're gonna want our low point to be after the ball for our irons so that we can get that nice feeling strike. And the way to do that would be to then not shift and come up scooping, right? As that will lead to your thin shot. What we're gonna wanna do is come back, compress our lead leg, and then turn with our head and our chest, if not in front of the ball, on top of the ball, right? Either or works depending on your swing. Try it out, but it should lead to you hitting the ball first and the ground after, just like this. Right? Don't need much power with it. Ball will come out, and then my divot will be after the ball, just like how we want it. So if you guys like this type of content, drop a subscribe down below here. Drop a thumbs up as well if you're new. And my new recent upload is going to be right here. Check out my other uploads if you're interested, and I'll see you guys in the next one.